All right.
Okay, welcome to Glory Day Lutheran. We are Care Partners. We are here today. I'm Nancy. This is Darian from Care Partners, and we're here live at the actual Glory Day Lutheran Church in Nassau Bay this morning, hearkening back to former workshops and caregiver conferences. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today. And I'd also like to thank Pastor Randy Miller, who's the pastor of Care and Connection here at Glory Day, because he made it possible for us to be filming live today. We have a 10-year plus partnership with Glory Day Lutheran. And to me, partnership not only speaks to mutual respect, but also to friendship. So we are grateful to you at Gloria Day for being our friends and being our partners for all of these years. Now, if you need proof, if you're from Gloria Day, you know we're at Gloria Day right now, but if you need proof that you're at Gloria Day, let me introduce everyone's favorite four-legged member of Glory Day Lutheran. We have with us here today, Joy Comfort Dog, who is here with her humans/handlers, Barbara and Karen, to visit with us. Everybody who attends a conference here or a workshop knows that the best part of the day is to have Joy in the room with us. So she came to join us and greet today. And there is proof that we are at Glory Day Lutheran and we are all in love with golden retrievers. All right. Now, what we're going to do today, we have two speakers. And so our first speaker will go on, and then we're going to have a 30-minute break in the middle to give everybody just kind of a chance to revamp, do whatever you need to do at home before you come back to your screen. And I'll just put in a plug now. After that 30-minute break, I'm going to make an announcement that you're going to want to hear. So you should come back after the 30-minute break. Sorry, I can't resist. I can't resist. Joy is here. And let me introduce our first speaker today, Andrea Zaite. Andrea is also another person with whom we have had a long partnership. And there she is now.
Good morning, everyone.
A long and lasting partnership, and we greatly appreciate everything you do for us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And always thank you for inviting me to speak. I think that Care Partners is a wonderful organization to provide everyone with support, education, and friendship.
Oh, so well said. Okay. Okay. So I will turn this over to Andrea now and let her get started.
All right. And today we're going to have a presentation on having the conversation, compassionate discussions.
So we're going to get the camera switched over. And yes, so yeah, that's the screen that they'll see you in. Thank you everyone for being patient. This is our first time trying to do something like this, so we're gonna get it looking nice for you. And we'll go ahead and get started in just 1 minute.
Shown?
Yep, and I think we're good to go.
All right. You've arrived at, you're done with work, you are enjoying your life, and you want to continue to be as independent as absolutely possible in your life. So
Why do we want to talk to our loved ones about these things? One reason is we want, this is a gift that I'm giving you. So you're giving this gift to your family so that they understand exactly what you want, how you want your life to be like. Well, how independent do you want to be? Where do you want to be in your life? Do you want to be in a senior community? Do you want to be in your home? We want to remain in control of our lives. This is so important. Everyone thinks that if they do documentation about living wills and such, that gives somebody else power. If you give somebody a medical power of attorney, that gives you power. That is absolutely not true. That is keeping you in control. And the other thing is, this is goals for various transitions in your life. Should you become ill, or should you become incapacitated? These are the goals that you want to other people to understand as you transition. You want people to know how you want to be treated. What do you want your room to look like? How do you want your day to look? How structured? And what do you want your loved ones to know, especially about you, about how you lived your life, and what is important to be remembered by. And then finally, you want them to know what happens to me when I die. And do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? Compassionate burial? Do you want a service? Do you want music? What music? And all these things are so important, and it keeps you in control of your own life. We are going to help people you love to plan for your future. And that's what I mean by keeping and maintaining control. You have spent your whole life, many of you, having goals. When you were young, you had a goal of getting through school, and maybe you wanted to go to college, or maybe you wanted to go to trade school. And then you set those goals, and then how do you get there? Do you have to take classes? Do you have to apprentice? You set goals about marriage and family, how many children you want to have, where are you going to live, homes you buy, neighborhoods you live in, schools your children go to. And so we have goals for the end of our life too. I want to travel more. I want to take classes at university and there's so many things that we can do today in our lives. I want to go on cruises. I want to hire somebody to be with me when I go on that cruise. And so we spend all of our lives planning all these major events. We've got to plan this part of our life too. It's really important, as all other parts of our life. And as always, knowledge is power. If your family has the knowledge of all these things about you, then you have the power, because they know exactly what you want. And the most important thing is you're going to avoid misunderstandings among your family members. I can't tell you, I've worked 7 years in ICU, and the daughter or the son that lives here, that's helping mostly or sees you on a regular basis, they have a tendency to know exactly what you want. But then you're sick in bed, and the daughter, the son from Michigan comes in, and they haven't seen you in a while, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, why isn't this being done? And why isn't that being done? And then the two siblings start fighting with each other, or the brother and sister start fighting with each other. And there's all this misunderstanding and bad feelings. Having everything in writing, having a good understanding helps everybody know exactly what you want. Without a plan, someone will make all these decisions for you. So if you do not put this in writing, and you do not express your feelings about how you want things to go in your life, Someone is be forced to make those decisions for you. And I also have a lot of examples of seniors who have no children, or maybe they have very little family, or their family lives far away and no one really knows. So who's making those decisions for you? Social workers, adult protective services, doctors, people that don't even know you intimately are making life decisions for you. Making those decisions can be really difficult, even when you know someone, even when you understand what they want, because we don't always know what's in each other's mind and heart. And putting your heart on a piece of paper will help you remain in control. What kinds of things are important for you to be in control of? Well, the most important thing in my mind is my own medical care. How I want to be treated medically. What am I willing to put up with? What am I willing to give up? How much care do I want? It is so important for you to understand that in today's technology and society and medical care, you can be kept alive. You can be kept alive even when you may not be conscious. So you need to be very specific about how much you can tolerate. Do you think that you want to be kept alive on a ventilator? What does that mean? What does that look like? Do you think you can be kept alive in these conditions and be tube fed through a peg tube through your stomach where you're not going to eat by a mouth? How much time do you want to go by as you are, as you're being kept alive under extreme means? Can you tolerate being kept alive if you're in a wheelchair? Can you tolerate being kept alive if it means that you have to live in a nursing home or be totally cared for? And how does that look? So that's the plan section we call long-term care planning. And long-term care planning kind of gives people the idea, okay, I could go to assisted living and I could be cared for, or I want people to care for me in my home, and I have the means to hire people to be in my home with me. And finally, how do I want to die? We need to write that down too. I want to be placed on hospice. I want hospice to be in my home, and I want my loved ones to surround me as I die in my home. I want people to play Italian opera. My dad had Italian opera playing in the background when we had him home for hospice. I want to be able to have everyone come in. I want my priest to come and pray with me. I want these prayers to be said with me and for me. And then finally, the funeral arrangements. When you go and do a pre-planned funeral, and you set aside notations about what clothes you want to be placed in, what type of coffin, and you pick all those things out prior to your funeral, this is a true gift to your family who will be mourning your loss. And this provides them some opportunity to mourn, as opposed to running to the funeral home, making these plans, saying, oh, I think my mom wanted to be cremated, but I'm not sure. So, but we'll do it anyway. And they're mourning, and then they're doing these things. So this is a true gift that you give out of the love that you have for the people left behind. And that's the most important gift you're going to give, is a pre-planned funeral. And then I think the biggest thing to ask yourself as you begin to make these plans and do this is how do I remain in control of my life? So what do I value the most in my life? What are the things that I have been so important to me? Is it the relationships in my life? Is it the animals? What will happen to my animals if I die? What will I want to be remembered for? Do I want to be remembered for the charitable works I performed or the volunteerism I had in my local church, or maybe a local Meals on Wheels program? Or do I want to be remembered for something I authored, for the work I did or the work I performed in my job? I mean, I hope that someday somebody will remember me for the fact that I helped provide seniors an independent life until the day they died with dignity and control. And when you prepare and plan for the future, you're taking time to evaluate what conditions you can live and cannot live with. And those are part of your values. So you want to evaluate those values. What do you value most? Some people value their relationships and they want to stay with their families for as long as possible. And so being in a wheelchair and being around their family is really okay. Having people around you that can help you mobilize in your wheelchair, I'm good with that. Some people say, oh, I don't know, I can't do that. If I can't live my life to its absolute fullest and go hiking every day, then I don't know if I can do that. What is your spiritual goals? Spirituality is often overlooked in the medical field because that's not taken into consideration. But your spirituality and your faith and your hope in what lies ahead is the most important component to having a good end of life. People go to church and they worship and they have a faith. They have beliefs that carry them through difficult times. It's going to carry you through illness. It's going to carry you through your whole end of life experience. So you want to make sure that you have a clear written plan about how you want your spirituality to look. For some people, it's in their faith and their religion. There's certain rituals that are performed when you are sick. For example, in the Catholic religion, there's a ritual called extreme unction, which can be performed when you're very ill. Putting that in writing and saying, if I'm very ill or I need support, I would like my priest to perform the rite of extreme unction. That's just an example. Or I really would love it if somebody in my church came once a week and gave me communion while I'm either here in my home or maybe I'm in the assisted living. I would really like it to have Bible scripture read to me on a daily basis to help uplift my spirit. So those are the very specific things that you can write down in your plan, and you should do that, absolutely. Financially, it is very expensive. We all know that caregiving in your home is not covered by insurance. It is not covered by your Medicare, and it's not covered by any secondary insurance. It's considered, activities of daily living, your day-to-day things like bathing, going to the restroom, or having assistance with that, cooking, eating, cleaning. Those things are considered by insurance companies non-medical care. They are very important in order for you to remain independent in your home is to have that non-medical care. However, it's not paid for through traditional Medicare because it's not considered medical care. So some people plan to have this care as they age. There are things called long-term care insurance plans, and those plans can be purchased and they can help pay for the care, whether it be in your home, in assisted living, or in a nursing home. And it's important to plan for that. And it's important to understand that you have worked your whole entire life, probably done some saving. And then when you come to this point in your life where you need help, I tell my friends and family, you have arrived. And so if you think, oh, I can't spend this money because I want to give this money as a legacy to my children. If you're not well cared for and you're not happy, then all they're going to remember is that. And the money is neither here nor there. So it's so important for you to plan financially. It's important for you to spend the money that you need for your care, no matter what that looks like. And sometimes that may mean that you go to senior living or assisted living, because home ownership, we know, is very expensive. We know that there's a lot of money spent on repairs of the home, maintenance of the home. Things break down, things need to be replaced. You have insurance that you have to pay for. And if you take a whole picture financially and you work with a financial planner, you may find that it's less expensive to live in a senior community than it is to maintain your home. Being independent has a lot of different faces, and it doesn't necessarily mean owning a home. So working with a good financial planner, a good elder care advisor to help you understand where you need to be financially to reach your goals and is very important. And if you have those goals and values written down when you go to meet with an elder advisor, they're going to understand and help you reach those goals. But without the financial component, it's going to be much more difficult. So I urge everyone to look at their finances, to go and visit with your financial planner if you have one. Let them know that you're working on planning for the future. Let them know that these are your values, these are your goals for the future, and how do I get there? There are some excellent elder care attorneys in our community here. Hegwood Law Group is one, and I know some of you have probably heard her presentations and talking about the need for financial planning and good planning on your legal documents. There's the ARD law firm here locally. They do a really nice job. There's some very prominent law firms in Houston as well. Please take the time to do those things. Legal preparation, medical power of attorney, choosing someone who's going to hold your line, hold your truth, understand your goals and values is very important. Making sure that person isn't going to buckle under the pressure of other people in your life that might pressure in a different direction. For example, my husband and I have had some of these discussions, and I've expressed my wishes, and he said, I can't hold that truth for you because you're my wife and I can't agree to those things. So I was happy that my husband was honest with me. And I went and met with my oldest daughter and I said, here's my wishes, here are my values. Can you hold my wishes for me? Can you hold my values? And can you stand against some of the pressure you're going to feel from your father and probably from your other sister? And she said yes. So she is my medical power of attorney, not my husband. And I think having those frank discussions with your spouse is very important because they're not going to think clearly when you're sick. they're going to be thinking with their heart, and they're going to be thinking with their own heart, kind of a little selfish. And that's okay, because they love you, but you need to understand and you need to ask the frank questions. All these documents, the medical power of attorney can be completed without a lawyer, but I do recommend going to see your lawyer. Advanced directives can be completed without a lawyer, but again, if you have some very specific things that you want in your advanced directives, you need to go see a good lawyer for that. Why do I need advanced directives? You need advanced directives because without those, the doctor is going to come in, because it's his job or her job, and say, your loved one is having a hard time breathing on your own. In order for them to breathe on your own, we're going to put them on this machine and it's going to breathe for them. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you just need that support until your lungs get better. But sometimes when you have illness that precludes that, putting you on that machine is prolonging your death. And that is a very important value. How do you want your death prolonged if it is inevitable and you have a disease such as COPD, emphysema, or COPD, any lung disease, lung cancer? Do you want your life prolonged? Putting you on the ventilator and keeping you on this ventilator will prolong your life. Prolonging it for the inevitable and having a dignified natural death is important to you, then you might want to say, I do not want to be put on a ventilator should the need arise. And you would have to write that down. And that's so important. Talking to your doctor about your medical conditions and being very specific with your doctor. If you're diagnosed with congestive heart failure, what exactly does that mean? I am a medical social worker. I see patients both in their homes and in the hospital. And it's very clear to me that when your doctor tells you you have diseases like congestive heart failure or atrial fibrillation or COPD, a lot of people really don't clearly understand exactly what that means. What are those diseases? Those are life-limiting diseases. So your life is short, your lifespan is shortened when you have those diseases. And there's certain conditions under which, no matter what type of treatment you receive, you will die from those conditions. So you have to decide how far you're willing to go in your care and treatment if you have a life-limiting disease. When I talk to families in palliative care that are receiving cancer treatment, and the doctor, first thing I ask, did the doctor say that your cancer treatment, your chemotherapy will be curative, or is it going to be palliative? Because they're going to give you chemotherapy in both cases now. So you have to decide for yourself, do I want to be palliated and live maybe 6 months to a year, 2 years longer, but I'm going to be sick the whole entire time? Or can I live with this cancer? Maybe I'm going to live 6 months less, but I'm going to be able to take that trip I wanted to take or visit my family I wanted to visit, and I'm not going to be sick in bed. The doctor will not tell you that. You have to ask. So the doctor's job is to keep you alive. Your job is to decide how alive and what that looks like. That's your job, not your doctor's. Your doctor will keep doing all the treatment necessary to take care of you. And you want your doctor to do that job. That's what you hired that person to do. However, you need to be very specific with your doctor about what that looks like for you. Quality versus quantity. We already know we can give you quantity. But what does the quality look like in that picture? Fiduciary power of attorney is a power of attorney for financial. That is only done by a lawyer. The state of Texas has changed some of their laws, but they did not remove the fiduciary power of attorney document from the state of Texas website. I don't know why they did that. So don't be misled by going on the website and saying, oh, here's a document for my fiduciary power of attorney. I'll just print it out and sign it. The state of Texas has changed some laws, and I think you need to get the legal advice of a lawyer. The other thing you should know is that your banking institution doesn't always recognize even a legal document done by a lawyer as a document they will accept for you to have your person come in and do your banking and things for you. So it's also advisable for you to go to your financial institution and say, what specific documents do you need? Should I become incapacitated for Debbie Smith to handle my finances? And there are also people, if you don't have family or you don't necessarily trust all your family, which does happen, let's admit that, there's things called trust officers. And a bank has trust officers, and also some of your financial advising firms have trust officers, and you can name a trust officer as your fiduciary, and they will make sure all your bills are paid. They will make sure all your financial legal wishes are fulfilled, and they are legally obligated to do so. So trust officers are a good option for you if you don't feel family is there. And I also think it's important to understand, what financially where you are. So that's always why an elder care attorney is a good idea. If you know you're going to run out of money, you need to look at trusts, and a trust officer knows the specific trust to help if you're going to have to apply for Medicaid in the future. Again, quality versus quantity. We can't stress that enough. What are your medical conditions? Please have the conversation with your doctor. In the old days, Medicare did not pay for a physician to have a conversation with you like this and to help you plan, do advanced planning. Medicare now covers that, and you can call your doctor's office and get an appointment and specifically ask for that to be your appointment, and the doctor will get paid. So please do not let your doctor get away with, well, I only have 15 minutes. This is important conversations for you to have with your doctor. What is advanced medical care? Of course, there's CPR. There's a document in the state of Texas called Out of Hospital DNR. If you do not have that document and you do not want to be resuscitated, if someone calls an ambulance, the state of Texas, they are required by law to resuscitate you. What does resuscitation really mean? It's not what you see on TV, folks. It is a very violent act that we are performing to perfuse blood from your heart throughout your body. And we are going to press on that chest cavity very hard. We are going to probably crack your ribs because you're older and more frail, your bones are brittle. It's going to happen. We are going to hit you with electroshock with paddles. We're going to administer medication to keep the heart pumping. And we are going to intubate you in the field, which means you're going to have a breathing tube put down your throat into your lungs to breathe for you. And DNR does not mean do not treat. So if you call the ambulance because you are having other medical problems, your medical problems will be treated. If you have a DNR in a hospital, that doesn't mean we're not going to treat you. If you have an infection, you're still going to get antibiotics, whether it be IV. If you have a wound, if you have a car accident, all of these things are treatable. What we do not do is when your heart stops, we do not do all the extreme measures. We do not do chest compressions. We do not intubate you. And it is important for you to have that discussion with your doctor as well. Studies show that 15% of healthy people survive CPR, just so you know. And at an elderly person's ability to survive is only 5%, if that. So you have to be pretty healthy to survive CPR, a cardiac event. 2% of those with 2 or more conditions and frail elderly, 2%. So if you have 2 or more medical conditions and you're elderly, you will only have 2% likelihood of surviving CPR. And if you survive CPR, you might not look the same as when you went into CPR. So you can have brain damage or other issues from your CPR. Advanced medical care can include artificial hydration and nutrition. So artificial hydration is when we do it via IV, and it has some very high risks to it, and it can lead to internal fungal infections and also some other issues. So it is, but people do go home on artificial hydration and nutrition. And people go home and can live with PEG tube feedings, where you're fed through a tube placed directly into your stomach, and it's liquid feeding. And if you're in the hospital and you're very sick, we may put a nasal gastric tube through your nose down into your stomach to help you get nutrition while you're sick in the hospital. And those things cannot be performed. Nasal gastric tube feeding cannot be performed anywhere else but hospital. They don't typically even do it in a nursing home. TPN is a form of nutritional feeding that goes into your veins. And again, it can be given at home with a pump that you wear. However, it has some risk to it. And how do they help? And how and when do they become a hindrance? Again, that needs to be discussed with your doctor based on your medical condition. But if you are very ill and you're incapacitated in the hospital and you're likely to die, tube feeding and TPN and all those things will prolong your life. And as your body begins to shut down and your body begins to slow down, so does your digestion. And your ability to handle these fluids becomes less and less. And this is the biggest area that is a lot of controversy for people. And I understand this. Our culture, we're feeders. We equate eating and healthy appetites with health. And I'm Italian, so I'm a big feeder, and I know these things to be true. So I know that if you're not eating, the nonna is going to say, "What, are you sick? What's the matter? You know, you're not eating." It's a very big cultural thing. But the truth of the matter is, as we age, a lot of processes are changing in our body, and we have less enzymes and to break down the food we eat. We are less active in some cases, not all. And so we don't need as many caloric intake, and we just don't digest the same. So I might eat a meal, and 5 hours later, I have digested that meal, and I may be prepared for my body to accept the next meal. I'm very active. I work out. So yes, in those 5 hours, I'm ready for the next meal. However, some people say, "Well, how come you're only eating once a day?" Or "How come you're only eating breakfast, Mom?" It's because her digestion is very much slower than my digestion. She doesn't need all that food. She's not moving around. She's not burning the calories, so to speak. So we're just pushing people to eat when they may or may not really be hungry, or their body might not be able to keep it down. And we're just filling that cavity up. So think about where you are with, do you want to be kept alive, and do you want to keep getting tube fed? Advanced medical care means ventilator care. It's used to support your ability to breathe, period. Your body begins to shut down, and sometimes you can't breathe on your own. So a machine has been invented to help you breathe. And those things are great if you got in a car accident and maybe your lungs got damaged or you had a collapsed lung, and this is just a temporary thing. In my advanced directives, it very specifically states that if I cannot be removed after the ventilator after 2 weeks, I want to be allowed to die gently and with dignity. So I have some very specific statements about ventilator care in my advanced directives, and you can too. You can say, I'll try it for X amount of weeks, or if the doctor says he thinks that my lungs are going to heal if we just give them a rest. But then if it's clear, you might want to add a second statement. If it's clear that this is not working, then please let me die gently. And I have some clients that have an ALS, and ALS, you most definitely, your body muscles weaken, and that includes breathing, and you're absolutely going to be on a ventilator. So if you have MS, ALS, Parkinson's, some of those neuromuscular diseases, you need to be very specific and have a good conversation with your family and your doctor about when that time is that you want to be allowed to pass with dignity. Dialysis is another advanced medical care. Dialysis is very serious. You're removing the blood from your body and the fluids. It's going through a machine and being cleansed and then placed back in. You will likely be dialyzed 3 days a week. You will likely be there for 3 to 4 hours at a time, and you are more susceptible and open to infection. You're tied to that machine 3 days of the week. And a lot of times people tolerate and they can go about their business on the other 2 days, but sometimes you're tired. It wipes you out. And your body begins to deteriorate the number of years you're on dialysis. Again, please have that discussion with your doctor. It is a palliative treatment, and it will eventually stop working. And it does a big strain on your heart. It puts a huge strain on your heart, because think about it, your blood is being removed from your body and then it's being placed back in. And when the blood goes through the machine, it shears your cells. So they don't look the same. So what's important? What are my wishes? What's important to me? I know myself, I'm a big outdoorsy person. I'm a big open all the windows and let a lot of sunshine in. Those are the things I'm going to put in my plan. What is important to you? Living on your own terms, putting it down in writing. What does your life look like? Are you a reader? If you can't read anymore, do you want audiobooks? I know I do, because I'm an avid reader, and I want to be somebody to play my audiobooks for me if I can no longer read, if I have macular degeneration and I can't see. Music is a huge part of my life. I play music in the morning, every morning, to get me started and get me going. I want music played. I want specific music played. And if it's an insurmountable challenge to you to think about making these plans, I have some examples of plans that are available out there to you from really great organizations like AARP. There's one document I really like, and it's called the 5 Wishes. And then you go through the document and, it talks about what I said. Wish 1, who will hold your truth for you? Wish 2, what kind of treatment do I want? Who should be my caregivers? Who do you call in case of a medical emergency? What if I'm close to death? What if I'm in a coma? What if I have, and the 5 Wishes kind of goes through this whole process with you to ask you these questions, and then gives you places to write your answers so you can put something together. People want to be able to have their favorite beer or wine, or, like in my dad's case, every morning he went down to his humidor, got a cigar, and he had that cigar all day long. And one of his things at the end was he asked me to light him a cigar. And he was in bed, laying in his bed, and he was on hospice, and he had his music on that he asked for. And I went and lit him a cigar. That's what he asked for. And I took puffs out of it, and then I put it up to his mouth, and he took puffs out of it. But that was important to him. And it's not a judgment. Like if you want to smoke a cigarette, it's not a judgment. You want to drink a beer or whatever. It's about, what does that person want? What is important to that person? I want to, it's an old joke, everybody knows, oh, somebody has come and pluck out my chin hairs, or, I need my hair I need my mouth clean. Like, I don't know, that is the biggest deal when I see my palliative and hospice patients and their mouth isn't clean. I'm like, no, we got to clean their mouth. And it's a thing for me too. So making sure there's specific things you want, your hair styled a certain way. I had a client who it's very important that no matter what, her hair was brushed and her makeup was put on, including her eye makeup and everything. So that's what she got, because that's what she wanted. And it made her feel good. I want the Bible read to me. I want a specific stories or poems. I had Kipling or, whatever it is. And so please, put that in there, and it'll ask you that in the 5 Wishes. I want people to pray for me. I want people to hold my hand. I want my priest or pastor to be there. All those things. How do I want to be treated? I want communion before I die, whatever it is, put it in there. Wish 5, my wish for what I want my loved ones to know about me. To respect my wishes, even if they don't agree with them. We're not all going to agree. I didn't like the fact that my dad smoked cigars. It stunk, but that was his wish, and I loved him. So I'm honoring him. You're honoring yourself, and you're honoring the person. Do I want a memorial? Do I want a party? Do I want my ashes spread at sea? I had one client, he had no family, and he said to me, we went to do the pre-planning of the funeral, and we met with the funeral Carnes, and it was really surprising. And he said, okay, well, I worked on the docks in Galveston when I was a young man, and I want my ashes spread in Galveston Bay. And I was like, wow, okay, that's good. We know that, because he had no family anyway. So I think those little things were so important. I found out so much about him that day when we did funeral pre-planning. How do I want to be remembered? What do I want to be remembered for? Your legacy is who you are today. That's your legacy. Your legacy is about the things that you did in your life. Everyone has a story. And that's the best part of my job is I get to hear your stories when I meet you. I get to hear your stories about your whole entire life. I've had clients I had a female client and she sailed boats and she flew airplanes and she studied cooking in France and she owned her own store and hardly anyone knew about that. And then we started talking and she had dementia, but she still told me all those things and then found the pictures of her doing these things. It was so great. So when you say, what do you want to be remembered for? She was really saying to me, here's the things I want to be remembered for. Here, please take a minute and write these things down. If you need the 5 wishes, this is the website, you can get them. And AARP has a starting guide, starttheconversation.org. And then hospice has, hospicehelp.com has a guide as well. These are excellent resources. I use the 5 wishes a lot with my families, but these other websites have excellent documents as well. Pick one that's good for you. And we can also share those later on as well if you need them. And then if you need to talk to me about helping you and your family facilitate this conversation, maybe you want to have a session with me to help you talk to your family. I'm more than happy to help. And we can get in contact with me and I can help you out. I don't know if anybody is having any questions or comments or any of those things that you feel I missed or.
Let me go check. So yeah, everyone who's at home watching, now is your opportunity. We're gonna have a time for Q&A. So if you have some questions or anything you want to talk about, feel free to type it in the chat or raise your hand or just let me know and we'll get your questions answered. In the meantime, Nancy, do you guys have any questions?
It's a lot to digest. It's a big topic.
I'm feeling like you've already answered every question. As many times as I've heard it, I'm still taking
Faith,
Yeah, can you put the
I
screen?
hear I see a hand raised, I think.
Oh, yep.
Can you put the screen back on that
I
has
think you're unmuted, so I think you can go ahead and start talking.
and the ARP so I can get the places that I contact.
Oh, maybe turn yourself.
It was the last screen that you had on.
Just give us 1 second.
Okay. Faith, can you hear us?
Yes.
Did you have a question?
Yes. Can you put the last screen back on?
Yes.
The contact information is actually looking for.
I'm not sure. That's one of my emails. And if you want, I can give you my phone number if you want to write that down.
Okay.
It's 281-910-0930.
Okay.
And I also have a website,
Okay.
the letter A, the word TOZ, jerrycare.com, A to Z, jerrycare.com.
Okay.
I'm gonna put that in the chat as
Yeah,
well.
I was gonna say we could.
Thank you.
Faith, did that help you?
Yeah, thank you.
Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. Anybody else have any questions?
Andrea.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it ever, I kind of wonder, is it ever, or how early do you believe people need to start making some of these preparations? Because I'm thinking, maybe this is something you start relatively early and then revamp throughout the years. Because I just heard a story this morning of someone who died in their 50s, and their wife had already died in her 50s as well. And you know, you're not expecting to need to make plans before that time. It's kind of like, I think we all have it in our heads that when we get quote unquote old, whatever that looks like to us, then it's time to sit down and hammer this out. But it scares me to realize that as my own folks were in their 80s, it was not hammered out. And both of those situations went very poorly because plans weren't in place.
Oh, it could, in my own case, my family didn't make any plans at all. And I know my mom was only 70 when she had a heart attack and it ended up fatal. And she didn't have anything in writing, or they didn't even have a will, a simple will. And then my dad died actually 1 year later of cancer with nothing. And when she died, he refused to, he was so sick, he just couldn't see his way to do anything. And it left me 5 years in probate. 5 years. So yeah, there's never a wrong time for planning. And we saw that during COVID because a lot of young people died during COVID because they had a lot of comorbidities. So there's never a wrong, and it doesn't matter how old you are, 20, you should have a medical power of attorney. If you're over the age of 18, you should have a medical power of attorney because your parents don't necessarily, maybe are not necessarily the ones you want as your medical power of attorney. So yes, once you're of age, you should at very least have a living will and a medical power of attorney. And yes, those things are going to change and you should be updating. Like, for example, I know it is time for me to update my will because some of the things in my life have changed now. So absolutely, you should be thinking and looking and updating just like you do your goals every year. Very good question.
All right,
I
so it
think
looks like
Shirley.
Shirley has a question. I'm trying to unmute you.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. So if anything, I can repeat the question. We're trying to limit the feedback noise.
Yes, please.
So
Okay. I was just wondering if she could repeat a little bit of what she said about like going to your financial institution and asking them what's required because I heard something for the first time that even though you have all these things in place and a power of attorney and legal documents, the banks don't necessarily accept that.
okay. So she's wondering if you could talk a bit more about the financial institutions. She's saying that she's heard that some banks sometimes may not take the powers of attorneys or different documents.
That's correct. Hi, Shirley. I miss seeing you, by the way. It's good to know that you're here watching our Zoom meeting today. Yes, it is true. There are certain banking institutions even across the United States that are not recognizing people's medical power, fiduciary power of attorney, even if it's executed by a lawyer. So it is important for you to go to your specific institution and ask them for the documents that they would recognize and make sure they're properly executed and take them to your lawyer as well. Every banking institution has their own legal department, and their own legal department interprets things very differently. The other very, very important thing, I'm sorry I failed to mention now that you brought this question up, and thank you so much for doing that, is that just because you have executed these documents, medical power of attorney and fiduciary power of attorney, does not mean that the people that hold those documents in their hand, the people that you've written down as those powers of attorney, can just simply walk in and hand those things over. That is determined by a doctor. The doctor has to write a letter stating that you are incapacitated and you are unable to be there to make this decision. So if your fiduciary tries to go to your bank and say, well, I want to withdraw this amount of money, I have this fiduciary power of attorney, the bank will likely say, well, do you also have the letter that corresponds with that, that says that the doctor has made the determination that Shirley Arbit is no longer mentally or physically able to do her own banking and her own financial decision making. So I want to reassure people, because a lot of people don't want to do these things because they're like, well, somebody's going to make decisions for me. I want to make my own decisions. As long as you're able, you will be asked first. You will be talked to by your doctor in a hospital. You will be talked to by the social worker and whoever, psychologist, whatever it is. We have to determine you can't do that first, and then those documents get executed.
All right, thank you.
I hope that answers good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
We still have some time here, so if you think of anything as we're chatting, as we're going along, you can raise your hand, type in the chat.
Oh, I thought I saw somebody.
There's a couple people who are just joining us.
Oh.
We're finishing up this presentation we just had about having the conversation, compassionate discussions. And so we just talked about end of life planning and understanding your wishes and the importance of sharing your wishes with your family. So if you have any questions about that, of the people who are just joining in, then we're going to have a short break, and then our second presenter is going to be joining us. I'm trying to remember exactly which time. I believe at 10:30, 11. Oh, 11. So the second presentation begins at 11. So we'll have a short break here in just a few minutes.
Anybody else have any other questions? I'm so glad that everybody got to come and join us today. And I hope that as we could go and open up further, that we're gonna be able to do these things in person, and that you will be able to have support in person if you're caring for somebody who has dementia or a chronic illness.
I have another question.
Yes.
You had mentioned about the difficulty with your own folks being in probate for so long because
Mhm.
things were not in place. What are some of the other things that can go wrong when things are not in place? I mean, are there difficulties when, say, a parent is in one state and somebody's in another state? I mean, it just.
Yes, every
I feel like
state
the
in
best
our
way to teach about this is to say, this is what you do not want to happen.
yeah.
So.
Every state in our nation has different probate laws, by the way. And every state in our nation has different laws about medical power of attorney, advanced directives, out of hospital DNRs, fiduciary. So you should be executing in the state that you live in. So let's say you moved here from Oklahoma and your documents were all executed in Oklahoma. You might want to have a lawyer take a look at your documents here in Texas to see if they meet Texas law. So yes, every state in the nation has their own laws about probate as well. And there are little things that a lawyer can help you do, like there's such a thing as a deed upon death or a quick deed. So instead of your home, if you own your home and you want it to go to your daughter, instead of your home going through probate, you can do what's called a deed upon death. So that when you die, your home would go to your daughter automatically, no probate. And a lawyer knows how to execute those things. And the other thing that you should know, which, that it's kind of a whole nother presentation in a way, but, when you're planning your financial situation and how you're going to get the care you want and where that's going to be. So just so you know, let's say, well, I only have $10,000 in savings. And so my savings is very limited, and I only got, $1,300 in Social Security every month, and I'm living on that essentially. If you have a life insurance policy and you have a prepaid burial, you could utilize your life insurance policy's cash value as a way to care for yourself if you need care immediately. Because if you go to apply for Medicaid, there are huge laws about how much money you can have in the bank under Medicaid. There's even laws about your prepaid burial account. And if you have life insurance, Medicaid's going to tell you to cash it in anyway. So going to a good attorney who has great knowledge about Medicaid and the Medicaid regulations, if you think you are going to need Medicaid in order to care for yourself, then you need to talk to somebody about that and how to put things in a trust to protect some of your assets for your own care. So always talking to an elder care advisor, an elder care lawyer is very important in that kind of planning, especially if you don't have a lot of money and you think you're going to have to be on Medicaid at some point. Because there are no other, and that's the hardest part in our medical field today. If you're elderly and you go to the hospital and you become incapacitated, but you don't have money to go back home to get the care you need at home, and you might need 24/7 care, or you might need help bathing and going to the bathroom, or you can't go to the grocery store anymore for yourself, you've got to pay for that out of your pocket. And if you don't have money, you've got to figure out how to get Medicaid to help you with those caregivers. And right now, especially because of COVID, getting Medicaid in Galveston County and Harris County, it's taking from start of application to actually having someone come in your home and help you, it's taking 4 months today. And so when people say, well, I need a Medicaid provider because I can't take care of myself, I'm like, you're going to have to find a way to pay for emergent care right now. And because it's going to be 4 months until Medicaid kicks in. So it's taking 4 months to get, and nursing home Medicaid rules are different than home Medicaid rules that are different than medical Medicaid rules. There's different forms of Medicaid in the state of Texas. There's not just one. So it's not like I apply for Medicaid and then that's it. There's different qualifications for different programs. So please, this is why planning ahead, because what I see in my home health care visiting, I have a contract with a home health care agency and they send me out to these people's houses. Hospitals are discharging you. Whether you can take care of yourself or not, you're going home. They performed your medical care, and under EMTALA law, it says all they're obligated to do is get you stable. There's no guarantee that you're going back to the condition in which you went in. So once you're stable, you're going home. And then if you can't care for yourself, a lot of times my seniors go home and they are sitting in a chair, and I have several scenarios where I go and that person got brought home in an ambulance and they're still in the same chair 5 days later because they can't get out of the chair and they don't have anybody. Plan ahead. Who will be that person? And if you don't have families, some of these people, I call them elder orphans. Plan ahead, plan ahead. That's why we're having this conversation today. You will go home, whether you can go home or not. And your health and your if you have a Medicare HMO, you have regulations about where you can go for rehabilitation. So after a hospital stay, if you're not able to, let's say you weren't doing really great at home anyway, and you weren't walking very much, and then you go to the hospital and you have an illness like pneumonia or a urinary tract infection or something, and then you can't walk at all because they leave you in the bed. Then if you can't go to rehab because your insurance doesn't allow for that, or you can only go 20 days and you really need 30, you got to be able to have somebody help you at home. And people think that their doctor can order home health care, and home health care will come in and do all this stuff for you. Home health care is the same as any medical care. It's only your medical needs. So the nurse only is going to come in and check your medical condition that you were discharged for from the hospital. The therapist is going to come in and do 45 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week of physical therapy with you. The occupational therapist is going to come in and do 2 to 3 days a week of 45 minutes of upper body physical therapy with you, helping you learn to rewash yourself or get oriented back in the bathroom. They're not going to come and cook a meal for you or clean your house or any of those things. And so that's why I strongly, strongly advise people to plan. And we have less, the state of Texas is 50th in the nation. We did not opt to advance our Medicaid during the Obamacare. I hate calling it Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. You know, we don't have the advances in our Medicaid as other states do. We have the least amount of services in Medicaid than any state in the nation. So if you want to change that, you need to start write your representatives and say you want Medicaid. Yes.
Okay, I have to say I'm sufficiently depressed.
I know, it's not a great
I know
discovery.
that was not your intent.
No.
But while I'm still being depressed, I
Oh.
keep hearing you mention pre-planning,
Mhm.
you know, funerals, death, and all that kind of stuff. That's one of those things that I should be thinking about, and certainly I should have started thinking about it years ago. And every time I think I'm getting close, I'll get another, ad in the mail telling me that I need to be cremated or have this service or that service, and it freaks me out when I get them in the mail.
Sure.
And I shred them, and then I don't think about it again for a few more months. So what is really wise in terms of that, or what does that look like?
So when you think about it, when you don't have a pre-plan and you pass away, your family is pretty traumatized and they're grieving. And when they go to the funeral home, funeral people know that. And so they take advantage of your emotional state. But if it's all done for you, it's a phone call. My mom passed away. I understand she had a pre-planned funeral with you. And we need that to be taken care of. And then your family's ability to just grieve and not have to pay all these extra expenses because this is the top of the line coffin, but your mom can have this pine box, or, I mean, it's like an emotional play. So, and they know that. And so you planning saves money as well as, gives your family a gift of being allowed to grieve. So you're going to save money. And, you know, a lot of times, maybe you don't want all the elaborate stuff. Your family just thinks you do. And all the extras cost money too, like, you know, like a viewing or after the party or whatever, all that. So it's all about, you know, how do you want it? The economy of it, and then plus the emotional aspect of it.
You may or may not know the answer to this. I may have to call someone who's an authority on such things, but with regard to the same topic, can say, I want to be cremated and that's it. No service, no nothing, no anything. Just please take care of this and, you know, hand that box off to my son when it's done. Can you go that simple?
Yes,
And you can prepay that?
yes.
And do you know, are there, okay, again, say I plan to be cremated and, you know, I walk over the border into another state and die. Is that, do you have to go back to, I don't know, do you have to go back through the funeral home or whatever you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, believe it or not, I had a couple friends, they were on vacation out of the country, had a heart attack, died. So their body had to be brought back to Texas. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I know. Sorry. But you know, it's all these things we don't think about, and you know, and that's why it's a difficult discussion. I hope it was presented in a compassionate way, and because there's not like an easy way to say it, but to be direct and honest, to be honest with you, folks, because it's just it's really necessary. And when you don't do some of these things, you really you can suffer. You can suffer personally for not pre-planning.
Along those lines, it's kind of, for some people, at least myself sometimes, something's difficult to talk about, so you just avoid it.
Right.
Do you have any tips or advice for just approaching the conversation, or how do you bring it up? Oh, hey, I want to talk about my death.
Mhm. Right. I think sometimes if you complete some of these, like let's say you sat down yourself and completed the 5 wishes, and then you went to your family and said, listen, by the way, I spent a lot of time and a lot of soul searching, and I completed this document and I want to share it with you. I want you to know how I feel. That's a good way to go. And yes, it is difficult to say, frankly, you know, my husband didn't want to hear what I had to say in my medical part, in my advance directives. And he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, whoa, you know, like we have to have a discussion. And he was like, no. Mm-mm. So, yeah, you don't want to have that discussion, but it's basically important just to come out and say it and say, I thought about this. It's important to me. It's important for my independence. And I really want to talk to you about this. And I know it's not going to be easy, but can we just spend some time together?
Yeah, and I think you just keep seeing how important it is. And I think it is so important because it does save the time, the money, and the stress. We've talked about it before at Care Partners about it's a gift of love, really, to your family.
It's a gift. That's the way I describe it.
I think we're coming up close to the end of the time here. We have a few more minutes before the end of this session. So any last thoughts or comments? Well, we really appreciate Andrea for taking the time to be here today.
Okay,
I think if that's it, then we can go ahead and wrap it
all
up.
right, we'll take a break. Thanks, everyone, for staying tuned and coming, and I enjoyed speaking to everyone. I can't see hardly anybody, but that's okay. Enjoy the afternoon. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Andy.
Mhm.